Chicken here, bringing you another Boom Beach video. In today's video, guys, we're getting into a tier list for all the troops in Boom Beach. So, if you don't know what a tier list is, guys, it's just a ranking system for troops or characters in a game, ranking them from best to worst. This is going to go in tiers, obviously, that's why they call it a tier list. And it's going to start off with D tier, C tier, B tier, A tier, and then S tier. S tier being the best, D tier being the worst. So let's go ahead and let's break it down, guys. So we're going to get on into today's Dr. Terrence, and we're going to be ranking all the troops in Boom Beach, like we said, and we're going to start off with the worst troops and go up to the best troops. So I'm going to be ranking the troops, guys, based on a few different factors. So it's going to be their viability in player bases, their viability in events, and their operations, their use in operations overall, and as well as their hero synergy, their ability to be used with heroes, like do they get good value out of them or not, and if they're extremely vulnerable to prototype defenses, like does a heavy ice base with maxed out shield gens completely shut down a warrior attack. Things like that are going to play an effect too. So enough of that, we'll go ahead and get started, guys. So the worst troops, the worst troop in the game, in the chicken's opinion, is the Cryoneers. So the Cryoneer, obviously, it's purely a support troop. It's not usable by itself. It's just obviously it's just a support troop, so it's only got that specific use for helping out other troops. You don't use or typically ever see Cryoneers in operations. And when I talk about operations, guys, I'm just gonna be talking about mid to high level. Low level operations, anything works. So I mean, you can, like, you could say anything works in low level operations, so it doesn't really matter. It's not going to make an impact on any of the tier list. But yeah, you won't typically see ever Cryoneers being used in operations or anything like that. So they don't have use in operations, and they don't really get any sort of value out of the hero. I mean, you see right here, we'll throw battle orders, and sure, they shoot faster and everything like that, but it's not like, it's not comparable to Warriors with the Ice Shield. It's not comparable to Zookas with Battle Orders. That's kind of the range that we want to go to when we're considering if certain troops get value out of heroes. And again, every prototype is going to be a concern for Cryoneers, because typically Cryoneers are used with medics, so laser beams, stuff like that, distract the medics from healing your Riflemen and your Zookas, and bring them over to heal up the Cryoneers. There's going to be a major problem, and obviously everything else is going to either one-shot or cause a lot of problems for them. So the next troop, now this is going to be controversial, but the next troop that the chicken has in here is going to be tanks, guys. So we're moving on up to C tier. That was D tier was just the Cryoneers, but so C tier is going to be tanks and medics, and I'll explain why. So tanks obviously are very good for low-level VP player bases. They're probably the best troop in the game for a very specific VP range of player bases, and sure, they can work in events and stuff, and obviously the lower-level events, the lower-level operations, tanks or team eds are going to be fine, but they really do hit a very difficult wall when you get up to around 800, 900 VP. They're kind of just not really going to work, and it does depend slightly on the defense layout and everything, and they're going to struggle heavily against Doomcans. They're going to struggle heavily against grapplers. They're going to struggle heavily against damage amps. So they do have some specific counters within the prototype defenses themselves that really alter how you would do it, how you would take on a base with tanks or tank medics. Yeah, they're not usable in mid to high level operations for anything. You would never find a use. You'd never find an operation base where you're going to be better off taking them down with tanks or anything like that. They're okay for most events. If you get a heavy boom cannon, Dr. Terror, then you're gonna struggle using tanks. They're heavily layout dependent, depends on the guy's layout, if you're gonna be able to use them or not. As with the hero, they do get some value out of Everspark, for sure, but it's not like you use Everspark and team eds and it's just like, it's comparable again to Warriors, Ice Shield, Battle Orders with Zookas, for like difficult player bases and things like that. So next up, we're still in the D tier here. We have, or sorry, excuse me, we're in the C tier, guys. We have medics. Again, they're purely a support troop, not usable in operations. Obviously, they're gonna get some value out of brick. And prototypes damaging them can be a huge problem, like laser beams and stuff like that, causing them to just not do anything and just become a medic heal party. So for those reasons, that's why we have medics and tanks rated so low. But obviously, obviously they are very good in certain player bases and things like that. So next up, guys, we have the Grenadiers. So we'll load up a couple Grens here so we can talk about them as we're using them. So we'll get the Grens loaded up just like this. And we have Grens ranked up a little bit higher than tanks and medics. And that's going to be because they have more variability in the events and operations and things. They do actually have some use in mid to high level operations. You'll get certain bases where it's all cannons at the front or whatever, and you have to use Grens to clear mines and clear all the cannons and things like that. And there's war factories that are very friendly towards Grenadiers. There's high level player bases that are friendly to Grenadier style attacks. In terms of prototypes, you have to be worried about things like grapplers and maybe damage amp rocket launchers. But if you're using Grenadiers on a player base, then typically it's gonna, like, you're gonna be able to take it down. You're not just gonna use it blindly for every single player base. They require a lot more positioning and strategy than just throwing out like fully boosted Scorchers or something like that. Yeah, like I said, they're only really vulnerable to the grappler and the doom cannons sometimes. And they can get okay value from the hero. If Brick was actually over there, we could show you, but she's busy taking out the mortars, I guess. But yeah, they can get some value out of the hero. Again, it's not crazy Zooka battle orders value that you're going to see with Grenadiers, but for this reason, I think they're kind of a mid-level troop. That's why we have them in the B tier, and they're the only troop that that I actually thought was worth putting just kind of in the middle of the road. So next up, guys, we have the A tier. So this is going to be the troops that most people use. So Scorchers, Warriors, Rifles, and Heavies. So we'll start off with Scorchers, guys. So I guess we'll load up the Scorchers here and take on a Dr. Terrence while we discuss this. So Scorchers are going to be viable in player bases, events, and they do have some use in operations too, specifically with Zookas when you need some basically just a heavy tank or something to take rocket launcher damage, but you don't want to use heavies for whatever reason. They do have some use in operations. And the thing with Scorchers is they're very good when they're fully boosted. They're basically like unstoppable. If you guys have ever used max boosted Scorchers to clear your map, like NPC base and stuff like that, Scorchers used to be exclusively used for clearing NPC bases before we got the just destroy all bases with one button option. Just because they were so strong. And I mean, you can look at this here, like for mid to even high level player bases, depending on the boost they use and your statues, Scorcher use is gonna depend heavily on your statues too, of course, but you can see that they're just very, very strong. They can get very good value from heroes, more so from Brick and Everspark. The Battle Lords is gonna be good. Iron Will is okay. The Ice Shield with Caveman is not really that great for Scorchers because they're made for taking damage as is. Everspark's Critter Swarm is probably going to be the best ability to use with them. And yeah, they can get some good value out of heroes. Not insanely, but it is decent. I felt Scorchers were good enough to place up here in the A tier with some of the rest of the best troops in the game. So next up, we have... where do we go here, guys? We have Riflemen. So all Riflemen, one of the best strategies in the game, in the chicken's opinion. We'll get the bucket hats loaded up here, guys. So Rifles are a great combo by themselves. Arguably the best troop combination for player bases in general. Not just all Rifles. I mean like Rifle Cryo Zooka Medic, Rifle Zooka Medic, however you want to use it. Some of the best troop combinations in the game are based around using Riflemen. So for that reason alone, like when you see these really high VP leaderboard guys, for the most part they're using Rifle Cryo Zooka Medic or some version of that. You usually see Rifle grouped in somewhere. You'll even see Riflemen with Grenadiers and tanks sometimes as well. So they are like very widely used in different things. So they do have some use in operations, not a lot, but you will see them used in some sort of like when you need a lot of cannon fodder troops or whatever. Quick Charge comes to mind, other things like that. Alright, so we'll get the Rifles loaded up like this. We'll flare up onto the core guys. We'll get Battle Orders going. And yeah, so Riflemen, you'll see right here, they get an absolute insane amount of value just from Battle Orders alone. And for this reason, this is one of the reasons I have them ranked a lot higher. Because their hero synergy with Brick is going to be like you see right there. We basically took out stage 6 purely because battle orders. They're going to be slightly vulnerable to all the prototype defenses, but there's nothing that you see that it's like, oh, like the guy has like 3 hotpots on the core or whatever. I can't use Rifleman because I can just shock them all, right? So it's not going to be anything like super detrimental. Like the most extreme case is shield generators, obviously with Warriors. And then Warriors. Let's talk about Warriors next, guys. So Warriors are probably the best, arguably the best troop in the game for map clearing and PvP in general. So we'll go ahead and hopefully find a warrior friendly base here. The thing with warriors is they can only be used by themselves. You're not going to see like any crazy warrior rifleman attacks or anything like that. We'll throw a barrage here because I feel like he's got some hidden mines. They can only be used by themselves. They're not usable in operations, but these are a lot of negatives, but they're so good in that like 300 to 1000 VP range. I felt like that kind of overshadowed everything else. Any of their drawbacks, just because they're just so good at what they're good at, and they're also probably the easiest and best troop to strictly use for events. Say if you only like to log in to play for events, you don't have much time or whatever, you can easily load warriors up. I can't believe we missed that shock launcher. But you can easily load warriors up, and you're gonna have no problem finishing off the event in like a pretty reasonable amount of time. And the only thing they're really vulnerable to is ice shields, chicken. Shield generators, and yeah, so heavy ice bases with level 3 shield generators are really the only major problem that you're gonna run into using warriors. So yeah, and obviously they get insane value out of Dr. Kavan and his ice shield. I would say second only in the game to the Zookas with battle orders. And speaking of the Zookas, guys, let's go ahead, let's get Brick loaded up here. And actually, I guess we wanted to talk about heavies first. So we'll quickly do a heavy Zooka. We'll get a crab killer attack going here, guys. So I have heavies ranked in the A tier. I have all the A tier kind of tied together. I'm not really sure what would be better than the others. Probably not heavies at the top like it kind of looks like we're doing, but heavies can be used on their own sometimes. You can use all heavies. It's not great, but it's not comparable to all riflemen or anything like that, but it is somewhat viable, so I didn't hold that against them, that they straight up can't be used as their own kind of mass troop. And a heavy Zooka is going to be the best combination, like, for anyone in the game, like, at any point, like, for low level, for high level. It's just basically the best combination overall, like, in terms of everything. So it's going to have the highest usage rate. And for that reason, I think heavy should rank very high in the tier list. The heavies themselves, they don't really get much of any value out of the hero, and they're not. And a good thing is they're not really vulnerable to any prototypes. So there's no prototypes that you're going to see running heavy Zookas aside from maybe like, it depends on the ice level too, right? But it's not like you're going to see like typically a heavy ice shield base you're going to want to take down with heavy Zookas, right? You're not going to see that, and then since you have all your heavies loaded up or whatever, not be able to take it down anymore. So I think that shock mine kind of screws up there. We just lost all. Nice chicken, nice. So professional Zooka attack by a heavy Zooka attack by the chicken, guys. That was. Oh man, we're gonna try that again before we sign off here. I think we just ran into a shock mine or something with the heavies and just got kind of absolutely wrecked. But either way, we'll dive back on into that, guys, and we'll make sure to barrage that down first. But heavies have lots of use in high-level operations too. You'll see a lot of heavy Zooka attacks on bases like Fang and other. There's specific bases that you usually finish off with heavies and Zookas. But yeah, they're just great for everything. They're great for low levels. They're great for high level players that have to deal with a lot of ice on their maps. They just don't really have any negative points to them. They're very good at everything. And of course, I'm talking about using them as heavy Zookas, not as like heavies by themselves. That's a whole different kind of ballpark. But we'll get some smokes going up like this, guys. We'll get the hashtag chicken trial going. This is going a little bit better here. And yeah, it's just the fact that heavies and Zookas together are so strong that I felt like they were worth ranking this high on the tier list. So we'll go ahead, we'll shock this stuff, we'll get some medkits going in the back there, guys. We should take that down, no problem. And now, guys, let's move on to the best troop in the game. Big surprise, that's going to be Zookas. Now, this was heavily weighted on the fact that Zookas are basically the only troop that you use in mid to high level operations. Like, you just don't see anything else, really. Like, you use some other stuff with Zookas, and basically every good troop combination in the game is kind of based around Zookas. Like, Rifle Cryo, Zooka Medic, the win condition there, I guess, is Zookas. All Zookas is very good, as we'll see right here in a second. There's just not really any drawbacks. Like, very rarely do you come across a base that has so much ice and has, like, such difficult mine layouts to get through that the Zookas are going to be unable to be used on it. Usually you can find a way. Sometimes you have to bring some heavies in, like we were just talking about, to make it a little bit more viable. But overall, Zookas are going to be the best troop in the game. They're going to be the strongest for operations. They're going to be the strongest for events. They're going to be the strongest for even most player bases that you're going to run across. So, also, the Zookas are going to get the best value out of a hero ability in the game, in the chicken's opinion. So, Battlelords with the Zookas makes the Zookas stronger than anything else with any other hero ability, in my opinion. It's just crazy the amount of damage that you can really get done here. So, we'll see this right like that, guys. You see, we're almost going to be able to two-shot Stage 7 on Volcano Dr. Terror. So Stage 7 goes down. Back. Best value from hero in the game. They're not really vulnerable to prototype defenses because the way that they're used, you're not just sending them out and shocking stuff randomly. They're all under smoke. You shock stuff as you come up. You throw critters out. So it doesn't really matter what the prototype does. Like, there could be a hotpot right on the core. If you shock it, then you shock it, right? Like, it's not something you're even going to have to deal with because you just shock everything and you maybe use critters as a bit of a shield. And they're easy to beat events with. Again, I feel like that's a big key that comes into the tier list, is using a troop that you're able to take down the events with very quickly and easily. So yeah, that is the chicken's first tier list, guys. So make sure to let me know down below in the comments what you think of this. Is the chicken way off? Is the chicken on point? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I know a lot of this was subject kind of to change, and a lot of it is just kind of like opinions, right? So let me know what you guys think. Very excited to see that down below in the comments, guys. That's gonna wrap up the video today. Make sure to leave a like if you found it interesting, entertaining, or informative, and we'll see you in the next one, guys. Chicken out.